in Kenya. But a divided opposition lost to KANU in the 1992 elections. But it made them go back to the drawing table and realize the need to level the electioneering ground. But that never happened until in the year 2002, when the opposition learned their mistakes. They came together under National Rainbow Coalition, and for the very first time, KANU was ousted out of power, and President Kibaki was inaugurated into power. One of his promises was to deliver a new constitution within 100 days. That never came to pass. And because we never addressed historical injustices, the elections that came in the year 2007, December, ushered the worst ethnic cleansing in the history of Kenya. So bad that we had to be reconciled by foreigners. A panel of eminent Africans led by Kofi Annan came to broker the peace deal, and a coalition government was formed. But they delivered the constitution we were looking for on 27th of August, 2010. The best gainers, or rather the main gainers of CK 2010, were the marginalized counties, especially the northern frontier, that had little access to the resources that were in Nairobi. So resources were devolved, and 47 devolved units came out of that. One would have expected, after taking power closer to the people, one would have expected, after taking resources closer to the people, is that the real issues that we were dealing with as a country, three of them, illiteracy, disease, and poverty, would have been addressed by the devolved units. But regrettably, fellow Kenyans, we devolved corruption into 48 units, if you include the national government. I remember I warned that in my book. I launched a book on 4th of March 2011, known as The Formation of a County Government in Kenya. And I remember warning this nation, we invited many leaders, that we are likely to devolve corruption. Right now, what we're witnessing is unprecedented in the history of this nation, the runaway corruption. I know for a fact that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is by far the most progressive document we have ever heard. So I believe with all my heart, what we're witnessing in Kenya today reveals a deeper problem that cannot be addressed by documents and laws and systems. The human heart, the condition of the human heart. No government schemes and strategy can reform the hearts of men. As far as today is concerned, democracy still presents the best option for governing free people. But democracy cannot be attained overnight. Democratic ideals are a slow ripening fruit. Any idea for drastic changes to fix the systems overnight is based on the ambitions of an individual, not the common good of a nation. I'll never forget, in the year 2003, then Justice Minister Honorable Kiraito Murungi declared a surgical cleanup of the judiciary, a radical surgery of the judicial system. And not so long after that, he was made to eat a humble pie, because change is a gradual process. Deep-rooted cultural issues cannot be changed overnight. It's a slow ripening fruit. And a case in point, there was a lot of tension in Rwanda between 1990 and 1993. So much that international pressure on the Hutu-led government compelled them to go to the drawing table in Arusha with the Rwandese Patriotic Front. But on 6th of April 1994, someone shot down a plane that carried the Rwandese president, the Rwandan president, Juvenal Habyarimana, and the Burundian president, Cyprien Ntaryamira. And apparently this took place when the plane was in the airspace of President Habyarimana. That assassination immediately ended the Arusha Accords. What ensued in the next 100 days, that infernal will better live in infamy. 800,000 people were killed and 2 million people displaced, and the only condition for your death was your tribe. I repeat, democracy is a slow ripening fruit. Any drastic measure to change systems, as they did in Rwanda, never works. You know, while I admit that they have made a lot of economic progress in Rwanda under the presidency of Paul Kagame, the real issues that took them to genocide, governance, and democracy still remain elusive in Rwanda today. What is true for Rwanda is true for Uganda and many African nations. Democracy can't be coerced down the throats of humanity. Compare and contrast the story of Rwanda with what happened in the United States this year on 20th of January. The popular candidate lost, and she was leading by a whopping 2.8 million votes. But their electoral laws declared Donald Trump the president based on electoral colleges. In essence, what that implies is that majority of Americans were not for President Donald Trump. Perhaps they were fearing drastic changes with this gentleman. Whatever the reason, we all know that we never witnessed bloodshed in the US. We didn't see them heaping blame on this race or that tribe or this class. They have lived to fight another day. They have chosen to give him a chance to see what to become out of the Trump presidency. I wonder what would have happened in Kenya if a popular president was declared the loser. Although our system is fundamentally different, and I'm not ignorant of the same, the best way to answer that question is to go back to history, because history does not cheat. We only need to look back what happened in 2007 when there was a dispute in presidential elections. Over 1,000 lives were killed. 500,000 people were systematically displaced, courtesy of a stolen election. We are seeing the same narrative quickly building up in Kenya today. To refresh your memory, then there was a slogan, 42 verses 1. Now it's becoming verses 2. The same tension, the same political undertones and tribal connotations are quickly building up. And this is the reason we convened this forum tonight. I believe while there are many reasons why we didn't fight in the year 2013, the single most important human factor was the ICC phenomenon. Neither political side knew what would become of the ICC discourse, and they watched it from the distance. But now ICC is out of the way. It has lost savor in the eyes of many Kenyans. You see, the UN sat down in Rome on 17th of July 1998, and they formed the very first permanent criminal court, ICC. This was inspired by the need for universal justice. This was inspired to quell violence and to protect the weak that are harassed by the mighty. But while we even enacted 17th of July and recognized it as World Day for International Justice, ladies and gentlemen, today as I speak to you, crimes against humanity know no bounds. Great nations refuse to ratify the Rome Statute. Powerful people in high places have committed atrocities widespread across the world, and they have walked scot-free. They have even funded or incited or even prepared the ground for crimes against humanity. So ICC, to the eyes of many in the developing world, has practiced what I call selective justice. The Kenyan cases in particular have made many Kenyans question the professionalism, integrity, impartiality of ICC in investigation, prosecution, and execution of justice. Now with ICC out of the way, where does Kenya peg her hope? Because now our destiny is square in our hands in this election. Is there justice in Kenya? And if so, justice for who? Because petty offenders in this nation are arrested, and the arresting officer in many cases is both the prosecutor and the judge, and for a few hours, the prisoner. If you steal 1,000 shillings in Kenya, we jail you. If you steal 1 billion shillings, we protect you. If you kill one person, we imprison you for life. If you kill 1,000 people, we crown you our king. Injustice is not a new phenomenon in the world. Asaph laments in Psalm 75. Why do the wicked continue to thrive? Where is justice? I found the answer in Acts 17, 30 and 31. I paraphrase for you tonight. That God doesn't judge us immediately. He gives us an opportunity to repent. So the question is no longer universal. It gets personal. The day of judgment is coming. Are you personally ready for it? When there are disputes in presidential elections, we normally have two contrasting ideologies in Kenya. On one hand, there are those of us who feel we should make use of the existing legal institutions. We should utilize our established institutions. We have made them, we should trust them, and we should take our cases to the courts. Then on the other hand, are the people who feel there is no justice in our courts. So they explore street justice, trying to coerce what I call a political settlement, because they don't trust our court system. That being the case, brothers and sisters, fellow Kenyans, what is our recourse? What options do we have in our hands tonight? In the pedagogy of the oppressed, Paulo Freire describes 3 levels of awareness. The lowest level, he calls it the magic level. These are people who believe they are destined for fate. There is nothing they can do about their situation. The graph is already drawn. The gods have chosen their destiny. They accept it as given. And that's the lot of almost 65% of the lower echelons in this nation's economic ladder. Then there's the second level of awareness, which is known as the naive level. These are people like you who know exactly what is happening, but we prefer to watch things from a distance, from the screens, at the comfort of our houses. This presents the working class in this country. We don't want to get into the murky waters of reforms. Then there's the third level and the highest level. Paulo Freire calls it the critical level. These are transformative leaders. People who believe I am the change that I want to see in the world. I paraphrase from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Words that were put in a different way by Mother Teresa. If you cannot feed 1,000, at least feed a soul. I don't believe it's your lot or duty or fate or responsibility to fix the evil system on this planet. You don't live in history where all evil has its root, but you surely can do something during your time. Martin Luther King Jr., when he initially started the civil rights movement, he was castigated by his own people, rejected by the church where he used to preach, but they now honor him to the extent they have preserved the third Monday of every January in his honor and erected a statue to his tribute in Washington, D.C. Guess what? One black woman seated in a bus was told to give way for white passengers. She refused. She simply said, "My feet hurt." Her name is Rosa Parks. She was kicked out of the bus, broke her leg, and that single act of courage made an entire people stand up and march forward against racism. This is exactly where Martin Luther King Jr. got his inspiration from. Because one woman knew that she knew in her small way she can make a difference. You're not called upon to change the whole world, but to do something. You see, President Nelson Mandela left a brilliant legal career, went into the streets to cause change. He said in one of his statements, "Sometimes it behoves a generation to be great. You can be that generation." I ask you tonight, will you be that generation? What a shame for you or me or anyone to ever quote these great leaders and do nothing about it. I request you, I beseech you, never quote any of them if you're just seated, watching the political landscape unfolding. You have no moral right to quote those names. If Mandela rose up from his grave, he would tell you exactly what I've told you. Go soil your hands and cause the change. So today, I want to suggest what I think you can do towards peaceful elections in Kenya in 2017. And I'll start with anyone in our midst, or wherever they are, anyone who will ever listen to this recording. But you're police, you're in the military, you're in the CID, you're in the intelligence, or our security organs. I salute you tonight. We honor you. You sacrifice for us. You lay down your lives for us. You have families like us, sometimes we neglect. And sometimes we have not compensated you for what you deserve. But truth be told, sometimes out of your own fears and inadequacies, you have made the wrong choices. There has been a lapse in your judgment. You see, an unfit police is twice as likely to shoot you down than a one who is physically fit. But you also recognize you've inherited a system that requires you not to question orders, to take them as given. I urge you, wherever you could be hearing my voice, in these elections, don't sniff away any single life, any innocent life, even as you try to honor the oath you took and the allegiance you swore. When you shoot down a protester, a poor mother goes to bury her son, at times an only son, at times an only breadwinner. In Sense 101 Life Club, we are not against police. We are anti-police brutality, killing in cold blood. History teaches with unmistakable emphasis